All right, so I'm going to go to my window here and SQDB browser. Yes, it looks like that's the one. Let me open that. Host, not found. Why? Oh, I see. My internet, for some reason, seems like there's no internet anymore. Anyway, we'll wait for it to come back. Internet not so good over here, unfortunately. Okay, so once you have this, now we can create a database. Okay, so we can create new database. Choose a file to save under. Okay, so I'm going to look for the place that I've put my project, right? That's PHP desktop. I'm going to go here. Now I will put the database file in my www folder inside app. Now this is up to you where you want to put this. You can create a new folder right in here and call it DB. That's up to you. And let's open that. And we can save it here. So this one will call it my point of sale DB. So my POS, and let's save. Great. So in here we can add a table, right? Now the thing is, what would have been nice is if we could simply copy the tables that exist in our MySQL into here, right? Using the create params here. Now, unfortunately, the columns that are available for MySQL are much more robust than those for SQLite. So unfortunately, we will have to create these from scratch. And it shows you here the create query as you add things. So if I say add, what is the table name? So what we will do is let's just go to this and go to the structure of our users table, for example. And then in here, we'll look at what we have, what column. So we have an ID, username, email, password. Okay, so let's go with that for now. This one is the users table, okay? And then let's add a field. And this one is the ID field. This one will be an integer. So you see the available options are quite limited, yeah? It's just integer, text, blob, real, numeric. Pretty simple stuff. We don't even have a date here or something like that. So this is the trade-off that you get with SQLite. So here I'm going to select auto increment and primary key. So as you can see here, it shows us that. Let's go ahead and look at the others. So we have username, which is variable character, 30, email, 100, and then password 255. So username, email, password. So let's do that. Let's create another field. We're going to call it username. And this one is text, of course. And we don't want to add a default value here, do we? Wait, what else is here available? Yeah, as you can see, we don't even need to specify the length of this. So this one NN is not null. So by default, everything can be set to a null value, unlike with MySQL, where you have to tick if you want it to be null. So we'll just leave this open, username, text. Then the next one is email. So this is much easier to create, less options, much easier. And then password, like so. Let's add password here, text. So let's put date, image, row. Let's go ahead, date, where are we? Add date, text, of course, image, text, row, text. What else? Oopsie. gender, and deletable. This one is an integer. So gender, final, and that's a text, and then deletable. This one will remain as an integer. Yes. Okay, so this is all we need for now. Auto increment on one of these. So you can, for future reference, you can always copy this create thing so that you can just run a query the next time you want to create these tables instead of having to do all this. So you can simply copy this and add it to be part of your code. Maybe create a function where once you run this and let me copy that. I'm going to say okay, and so we have one table here. Now I want to wait, ID, integer, username. Okay, that's good. But we can always copy this text here, copy create statement anytime. So not a big deal really. Let me cancel that. Where have I gone? Browse data. Okay. I'm completely lost here. I don't know what I have clicked to go to this place. But in any case, we have what we need here. So what I want is to add some records here. So let me add a record. Now I'm going to go to, wait a minute, browse data, users, okay. And you have to select the table from here. And then let's add an ID, let's add a username, let's add some data here, at least one row here. So let me click on browse and let me copy what's here. So copy from there, copy. So this is going to be tedious, though what I could do is I could copy, export this, and it's going to work if I import it on the other side. So let's see how we can do that. Maybe your table is quite large and you don't want to be doing this. So what we'll do is let's export. Let's click export here. And then let's hit go. So it has exported this, and this is a user's SQL file, which I can simply drag and drop into my project right here. And so this one contains the information from users table, for example. So if I just copy this, then I can insert into my SQLite database. Now, before we do that, since we have this, we have all the information that we need, I can export my entire database like this. Now, let's make a connection real quick. So I want to save this. If I now say file, close database, I don't even know where to save the database here because it just has save project, save. You can save the project, of course, which is not the database really. But if I close this, the star here, is that a star? No, not really. Save, it will ask you to save. Yes, please save. So let's go to our localhost here, www, where we have our project here, sorry. And we've created a folder called db inside our app folder. So if I open this, this is what I see now, my point of sale db. So that's my new database now. Now I need to be able to access this. So I have to redirect things from my MySQL into the SQLite. Now what's important again to remember is that if you go to the point of sale folder, there's a php.ini file. If you go to the PHP folder, I think we discussed this in a previous video. So this one we changed from development.ini to this one. So if you open this file, let's go in here, let's open this file. Let's do a quick search for what are those called? Extensions. Yes, extension is equal to, and I want to go to where there's a list of extensions. This is this one right here. Now I have to make sure that I have removed the semicolon here where there's SQLite. So for example, make sure PDO SQLite is active. There's no semicolon at the end because we'll be using PDO and SQLite at the same time. So make sure that is done and save. Okay, so once we are done with that, let's actually run the file. So we have this thing here. Let's close it because we won't have this data anymore. So actually, while it's still running like this, so that we can see the difference, what I'll do is I'm going to go to app and I'm going to go to, so you see in the DB here folder, that's where we have our DB file. But if I go to core and database.php, these are the connection params, right? Now with SQLite, I'm not really sure. You should explore that if you can add a password there or something. I don't know really. So what we're going to do is change the connection string. Now we're going to ignore these guys up here for a moment. And I'm just going to duplicate this file, comment this one out just in case you need to go back to this. But let's create a new connection string. So this one will not have the username and password here. Now, as you can see, there's a driver here which we are using, which is called MySQL in our situation, but we're going to change that driver to SQLite like this. Okay, great. And then the rest of this, instead of putting the DB name, because there's only one database really, and then the host name is irrelevant because this is just a file that we have, so we don't need to put a host name there. So these things become useless, and more or less we won't need a username and password. So instead, what we will do is we have to connect and just type the name of the database. So in our case, it's my point of sale dot, wait a second. What is the file extension? This is one thing I didn't check at all. So let's go to DB. And so the file extension is .db. So DB like that. So this is all you need to connect to a MySQL SQLite database using PDO. So make sure that PHP INI has it active, and then you come back here and do this. Now there's a slight problem here because the problem is that excuse me, every file that we want to include is in reference to the public folder. So keep that in mind all the time. The reference is the public folder because that's where the index.php file lives. So if you want, you can get your DB file and just put it in your public folder directly, and this will work just fine. Yeah, it will. Now in our case, we are not in here. We want this to be in a DB folder there. So we have to move from our public folder. We go up a folder, and then we go into the up folder, and then we go into the DB folder. So let's do that. Let's put .. That's how you move out of a folder. And let's go to an up folder /db/ my point of sale DB. So that's how you do it if you want to go to another folder. Now, if you're having problems with these folders here and it can't seem to find the database, just remove all of these and then move your actual database file into the public folder without putting it in any other folder, just public, and you're done. Okay, great. So now that we have this, let's see what issues we're going to have if we try to refresh our page. So let's click here to go to the home page. And as you can see, we don't get any errors. We just get an empty shelf because nothing was really retrieved here. Now, if I try to log in, let's try this. email@email.com, and let's do password like this. Wrong email like that. Okay, so we don't get any errors, which is good, meaning the connection is well. Alive and well, yes. Now, what we want to do though is let's get the user's information here and insert it into our database. So we can do that by just running a regular query. Instead of using the DB browser there, we can do this in the DB browser. we can actually run this query from there. But let's try and do it like professionals and run the query from here, right? So what I would do is I'm just going to go to my index page right there, and I just want to run a temporal query here, because I know at this point that everything has been initialized, and so I have access to my DB. So which means I can create a new database file class, and then run query, and it's going to run as predicted, because everything here still works because it uses PDO. This is the advantage of PDO, right? You can change your database type without so much fuss. Because if we're using MySQLite here, this would be a nightmare to convert to this. But because PDO can work with SQLite as well and other types of databases, it's as trivial as changing one line and the rest of the code remains the same. So what I'll do is here, I just want to run a simple query once and forget about it. So what I'll do is I'll say DB. So this is temporal code. So keep that in mind that we're going to delete this after we use it. So say database. Okay. So I've created a new DB, and then here I'm just going to say DB query. That's all I needed this for, just to run a query. So in here, I'll put a semicolon at the end and then just paste the query from the user's thingy here, SQLite file that I exported. Okay. So now that I've run this DB query, that's it. I just need to run it once. So save that and let's run it. Yeah. So all I need to do is refresh my page once. So I can do that by maybe just clicking login. As long as it refreshes, then that's good. So it's saying undefined variable on line 14. So what variable is undefined? Wait a minute. What's going on here? These are not variables, are they? ML. This looks like these are this. I think it thinks that is a variable or something. I'm not sure. Let's see what's happening. Well, I really don't know what's going on here, but what we'll do is let's see if the query actually runs. Let me save that and let's try this. Login. Wrong password. So the email was found. Interesting. So now if at any point you want to check what's in your database by using the browser, you can go back to DB browse like this. Okay. Let's ignore that guy. Let's say open database. Was there a recent? No. So let's go back to the same file that we have in our point of sale system, and it's inside apps, DB, and let's open that. So as I click here, it's open, and this is the structure, and browse data is here. And if I click on users, you'll see that it has actually loaded the information I needed. But for some reason, some of this information wasn't loaded very well. So maybe it needed to be escaped or something, you know, where you add slashes, because some of these characters are special characters in the password, right? So it's telling me wrong password, but as you can see, the query ran just fine. It added 3 users as predicted, the dates, and the what's this? Okay, so when I click here, that's the full information in there. Click there. Okay, so you can see what information, the other information worked well actually. So these passwords didn't copy properly. I think all of them didn't. So what we would do is let's just add them manually there. For one reason or another, they didn't copy very well, but it's okay. We're just going to do this. I guess they needed to be escaped. So what I'll do is I'll just paste new information like that and then apply. go to the next part here and then copy that. Now this is the only time we'll need to do this because we are just setting things up. Apply. The rest of the time we'll use our application to add and delete data from this. So this is a one-time thing because we are setting up. And you don't need to do this if you started with SQLite from the beginning, right? Okay, so with that, we have saved our database. Great. So let's close that. Save, yes, please save. So that code is pointless now. Let's try and log in one more time. And as you can see, the login has worked. So now what this means is that we are no longer using MySQL. We are using SQLite now, as of now. So we can prove that by, if I open my XAMPP control panel, and I'm going to stop Apache and MySQL from here. Both Apache and MySQL are stopped, so which means my XAMPP is no longer active. So let me close this and let's try to run this program. So if I go to the DB folder, my point of sale, so this is the application right here. So if I try to run this, this is what I get. Let me try to log in, email at email.com, and then password like that, and say login. And as you can see, I have successfully managed to log in and it has shown me my name over here. But if I go to my admin section, I'll get some errors because no such table products exists. So there's no table called products. So that's a problem. But otherwise, we've managed to run a SQLite. So what this means is that from now on, you can just copy this folder and take it to your client, but just make sure you have a clean database there. If that database is old, create a new one or delete whatever information is in there to make sure that it's clean, because this one will permanently have whatever data was being added through this application right now. So in order for everything to function, we just need to add more tables.